And welcome back to the GT Cup Championship here at Donington Park for rounds 21 and 22. Yesterday we had a great day of racing and there were so many intergroup battles. So if you missed the action, why don't we take a look at some of the highlights from round 20.
2x2 out of the final corner. The red lights are ablaze. They go out now. We're away in racing, and look at Ian Campbell on his toes in the McLaren there from the second row of the grid. Pulls to the outside line. Simon Orange will retain the lead, I think, into Redgate corner, but Campbell steams around the outside. He's going to get into second place at least, and nearly drew level with the race leader. Hugo Cook's had a terrible start. Darren Leung there tries to squeeze up the inside of the Audi, gets muscled out onto the grass and drops down the order. Jay Shepherd in the Lotus is up into fourth position. Then I think it's Paul Bailey up into the top five, perhaps. We'll double check that in a moment. Simon Orange with a big wobble as they come out of the old hairpin for the first time. But Simon Orange it is who leads them up the hill for third place. Darren Leung up the inside of the Audi. Now, we were told that that was Hugo Cook at the wheel for the start of this race, but it's not going as quickly as you might expect, really. In the earlier race today, Hugo Cook's fastest lap of the race. Simon Orange jinking to the right-hand side of the road, trying to find a way past the back markers. Campbell goes to the outside, four wide in the braking zone, and Ian Campbell is desperately late under braking. No way that he was going to stop the car there, ran out wide, and Simon Orange nipped back through, but that was full commitment through the back markers, and it very nearly worked for Ian Campbell. They're absolutely together again now, the top three. Now, what has happened? I haven't seen any debris on the road. I haven't seen anyone off in a dangerous position. I haven't seen anyone off at all, actually. Everyone, according to the timing screen, should still be running. So, oh, it's Sasha Kakad. Kakad is off at the Fogarty Essies. He's gone straight on into the gravel, but look, dinks his way out. Really impressed there that he's been able to reverse out of the gravel trap. Out of the final turn. No, the lights are still on, but into the pit lane they're all going to come. So the pit window is now open, and we will have Simon Orange leading Ian Campbell in. Darren Leung following as well. So this is now a battle in the pit lane. As I said, they've all got minimum pit times to adhere to, though, so there's no great sense of urgency. Group GTC Porsche there, and Harper's had a really good exit from Goddard's, tries to pull alongside now down the main straight. Outside line, jinks back to the inside. It's the move that won him the Silverstone 500 a few months ago, but it doesn't quite work here at Donington Park. He jinks back to the outside, gets a bit sideways as he tries to get all of the power down on the BMW. The pros will dial that traction control down to the lowest setting that they can get away with, and it really showed there, the car sliding around as he exited Redgate corner, who's again having to use every trick in the book that he's learned about defensive driving over the years. Dan Harper jinks to the inside again. There isn't a BMW's width there. It is a pretty large car, isn't it, the BMW? You have to find a pretty decent gap to try and slot it through. Again, he's quicker off the chicane, goes to the outside line, late on the brakes. He'll have to be here on the outside, or does he try and tuck back, get the switch back? I don't think that's really on. Neither is the round the outside move either, though. Tom Roach fends him off. Harper back to the outside line. Now, again, Goddard's isn't really where the move will happen. It's all about getting that good exit. Maybe hope that Tom Roach picks up a bit more of that mid-corner understeer. Oh, keeps it neat and tidy this time around. Through they will go. The leader's already gone through. I think we're on to the final lap of the race, though, just about. Towards the final turn they will go. It's going to be a sensational victory for Seamus Jennings and Greg Caton. They will be absolutely delighted with that. Who is going to finish second? I think it's going to be the race one second place car that once again has to settle for second in race two, but this time after a magnificent defensive drive from Tom Roach. He was on the attack in race one.
It was amazing to see some of the highlights from yesterday, and it was such an interesting day of racing, wasn't it, Piers? I mean, congratulations to Seamus Jennings and Greg Catton for winning, and Greg got driver of the day as well, so congratulations to them.
Yeah, great drive from both of them to get the win in round 20 of the pit stop race. They kind of came from nowhere, I suppose, helped a little bit by their pit stop times, but hey, they still managed to drive a clean enough race to get to the front. And again, driver of the day, great job. But it's great to see such close racing in both the sprint race in the morning and the pit stop race in the afternoon. Hopefully the same today.
I think it will be the same today, and I'm quite keen to stay focused on Tom Roach and Dan Harper because there was so many great battles between them all throughout the second half of the race. Dan was really pushing, but Tom was defending so well, wasn't he? So I don't know, I spoke to Dan. He said he's ready for the challenge today, so interesting to see how that plays out.
Oh, definitely. I mean, Tom genuinely drove an excellent race to, hold off Dan for so long. Dan races GT3s pretty much every weekend of the year. He's familiar with that car. He's going to be driving that car about as fast as it'll go. And Tom Roach, pro sporting driver, still, giving it to him. And it was great to see such a close battle that we could focus on during the race. Interesting to see if it's going to be the same today because conditions have slightly changed. We heard from Dan and Darren Leung that they're going to go with a slightly different setup today. Probably going to go a bit stiffer with their car, trying a few things out for another race they've got here in a few weeks' time. So that might make them even quicker, or it might just be not quite as quick. So we'll see a bit of pace moving because I'm sure other teams will be making a few changes here and there as well. But it's a bit cooler today. Feels like a bit of moisture in the air. We might see a bit of intervention from the rain potentially later on.
Yes, that might affect the race. And in terms of the BMW, how does that car specifically suit this track? Because I know over the commentary with you and Andy, you were sort of saying it's a little bit difficult at this track in comparison to the other cars.
It's a different car to a lot of the others in the Group GT3. It's front engine, it's a saloon car rather than a sort of a low slung sports car. You'll see the not the Aston Martins, the Lamborghinis, the McLarens, they're all very low slung and flat and wide, whereas the BMW looks, well, as you know, it's much bigger, but then it achieves its lap time in a very different way. It's a little bit taller, so its roll sensor's potentially a bit higher, but then it's got some good grunt because of course it's bigger, so it drags more on the ends of the straight, so it's got a bit more grunt out the corners, and it makes an interesting dynamic as we saw during that battle between Tom Roach and Dan Harper. I haven't had the privilege of driving a GT3 BMW, so I can't tell you all the detail. We can chat to Dan about that later on. But yeah, I'm interested to see how the changes set up they are making will make a difference and whether they'll go better or worse, and whether it will go better or worse if it does rain, for example.
Maybe we should stick you in one of the BMWs.
Hey.
I know, we can have some chats with them and see what they think.
Got my race license with me, so.
Exactly. Well, yeah, it's getting a bit chilly now, isn't it? So interested to see how the weather is going to affect this race. But why don't we take a look at where we're racing by the track guide voiced by Andy.
It's the second visit of the season to Donington Park for GT Cup. This time, though, we're on the full Grand Prix loop that begins in a familiar way with the run through Redgate, Hollywood, and the famous Craner curves. The old hairpin is always an action spot before the cars make their way uphill towards the highest point of the circuit at Coppice. Really important turn that leads them onto the exhibition straight, at the end of which we hang a left through the Fogarty S's and then barrel down towards the Melbourne hairpin, which is one of the best overtaking opportunities on the circuit. The lap ends with another tight hairpin, the left-hander at Goddard's, before the blast down the Wheatcroft straight to begin another lap. Donington, a real driver's favourite circuit, partly because it offers lots of overtaking opportunities and partly because of the elevation change over the 2.5 miles. The circuit sweeps up and down through the East Midlands countryside. That plunge down into the old hairpin is perhaps one of the absolute favourite sequences of corners in the country. It's a real momentum circuit, Donington, as well. Side-by-side racing is common, but it will delay the drivers involved. That often backs the cars up into a big group and creates an awful lot of action. All 12 turns add a challenge to the circuit, one that the drivers will be familiar with, but they'll still have to work hard to overcome this weekend.
I've got some new faces with me today, so can you both introduce yourself to the GT Cup viewers that might or might not recognise you?
I'm Melly. It's my first race weekend, but it's a dream come true to be able to race in the GT Cup. Yeah.
And who have we got here as well?
I'm Michael. Some people may know me from last year racing with Simon Orange, but if not, now I'm partnered up with Melly in GTH for this season or the remainder of this season.
So how have you two found yesterday? It was quite interesting. Obviously the second race was very interesting, but for you guys in particular, how was it for you?
it's actually difficult for me because it's actually my first race weekend, and I was a bit nervous, but I think today we will put in more effort to make some good results with the team because we really got a good team and my good teammates. I would just want to appreciate my friends and family, all the teamwork to support me to arrive here. It's been a tough journey to arrive in GT Cup.
And when did you start getting into racing?
Like since last year, I think I was just watching the race as an audience last year in GT Cup, and yeah.
Silverstone last year, wasn't it? Yeah, Silverstone last year. I remember Melly came to watch when we were with Orange, and then over the winter we started doing some karting, and then the ARDS test, and then it kind of led to where we are today. So very recent, very recent.
And then look at you now, racing at some amazing racing tracks. You obviously have raced here before, Michael. How have you found it? Do you like this track?
Yeah, personally love the track. I've had some good experiences here before, so yeah, very much enjoying it, and it's really nice to be a part of Melly's journey as well. Really mentor her from the very first day in the car to where we are now, and we're making good progress all the time as well. So yeah, very happy so far.
So moving forward for today, how are you feeling ahead of the races today?
We were very confident and hopefully just try to make it all right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like Melly said, more of the same. Keep chipping away, and then hopefully, yeah, keep improving.
Yeah, and the team are happy with everything. The car's performing well. You are both performing well. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the car's been perfect. The team have been really good as per normal. And yeah, we're working all the time. So only ourselves to blame if we don't do well.
Well, I'm sure it's going to be great. So good luck for the next few races. I'm sure it's going to be fab. Of course you can.
我想要特别感谢我的家人，我的爸爸妈妈，还有我的好朋友 Samson 跟 Lucia， 就是一直支持着我，我今天才可以站在这个舞台，实现我的梦想。谢谢 ，Thank you.
Amazing. Good luck, guys. Thank you for chatting with me.
Down here at the Race Lab garage now, and we're here with Duncan Tappy. Duncan, you've been in the paddock once this season already, but unfortunately didn't get to drive, of course, with Rich having that massive accident earlier on. But you're back again, different team, different car this time. You haven't driven the McLaren in a while, but you're familiar with the McLarens. What's this weekend looking like for you?
Well, it was all a bit last minute, and I've known Ian Campbell for a while, since our time at McLaren. And yeah, he dropped me a message saying, do you fancy having an outing at Donington this weekend? So yeah, I've never turned that down. Yeah, I'm quite experienced with the McLaren brand. I've raced them for a number of years, in GT Open mainly with Mikey Benham, and then working with McLaren actually helped a little bit on some development with this car. So, but that was a few years ago. So recently I've been driving some more single-seater kind of spec cars. So this feels a little bit soft and wallowy, but I'll get my head around it.
Still plenty quick enough though, and you mentioned that you did quite a lot of development work, but we just mentioned off camera that the cars have come on quite a long way since you last drove them.
Yeah, you know, it's quite naturally the progression of these cars and the championships. You know, things move on, downforce, grip levels, everything. So yeah, it's same, but not the same, if that makes sense.
Brilliant, and it's good to have you back in this weekend. It's a bit different to last time you drove in the championship, which is when you did a few rounds or a bit of testing at Alton Park. Donington in these cars, it must have really opened them up and feel pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, Alton is actually probably not one of my favourite tracks. It feels, yeah, just too restrictive for these kind of cars. Whereas this, however, is a bit different. You know, really flowing, fast, can really start using the downforce. So I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks, Duncan. Well, good to have you back again this weekend. Go well.
Cheers, thanks, mate.
Dan, it was such an interesting race for you yesterday. Big battle between you and Tom Roach, but how did you find it?
Yeah, it was an intense one. I think it was the most intense 25 minutes I've had recently in a car. So it was good fun, and obviously I have a bit of history with Tom back in Carrera Cup in 2019, racing against him there, and I got the better of him that time, but he got the better of me yesterday, so I'll try and make it one up on him again today.
So a bit of yin and yang then. Did it make you more competitive because you knew you wanted to beat him again?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we always had good, fair battles back in the past, so I knew it was going to be the same, and it was hard. It was close a few times. I was nearly on the grass a couple of times trying to squeeze past, but he defended really well, and I think he was glad to see the checkered flag.
And then what are the conversations between you and the team after that? Probably super proud of you, but it's like, how do we move forward? What are they saying?
Yeah, I mean, we're here really just testing for the finale of British GT, so that's the biggest aim of the whole thing. Obviously, you want to win as many races as possible, but yeah, we were happy with how we progressed the car, and we've came with sort of 2 setups, one for yesterday, one for today. And this morning in practice it was looking like a bit better than yesterday, so we're feeling quite positive for today, and hopefully we can have some fun along the way as well.
Well, I think it's going to be really interesting, but then we were just talking about different setups and why the BMW might struggle a little bit in comparison to the McLaren 720S. So tell me a little bit more about that, so it's more in terms of braking.
Yeah, I mean the M4, it's a big car, it's a big chassis for a GT3 car compared to like a McLaren or a Porsche, whatever. The Audi. So we have an advantage on a straight line normally with a lot of power from BMW, but in the corners and braking, and the lighter car normally will work better. So they have a bit of an advantage on us in the corners, but we'll then gain on the straights, and that is easier then for overtaking because you can get a run into the corner, and if you can get the position before the corner happens, then that's sort of what we have to aim for.
Okay, so that's the focus today then. And last question for you, how did you get to be a BMW Works driver?
So I was racing through karting all my sort of junior since I was like 5. I was karting back home in Ireland. Then my mom entered me to a scholarship in Ginetta Juniors for a birthday present, and I ended up winning, and we were like, oh God, what are we going to do now? So that was the start of the cars back in 2016. Then I did 2 years of Ginetta Juniors, and then I won the Porsche Junior Shootout, and was Porsche Junior for 2 years in Carrera Cup. And then I won the Carrera Cup Championship in 2019, and then BMW just gave me a phone call. I was actually at my part-time job, and I got a phone call from a random German number, and I was just not even going to answer, thinking it was some person going to annoy me about a car accident or something.
You thought it was like PPI or something like that?
Exactly, yeah. So I was like, oh no, not again. But I answered it, and it was the boss of BMW asking me for a meeting. So I went to Munich the week after, and I signed a junior contract. So I was BMW junior driver for 3 years, and just this year was my first year as a full works driver. So it's crazy that 4 years down the line already with BMW, it's just going way too quick.
Yeah, well, I think you're doing amazing. Very, very talented driver. So good luck for the next few races, and we'll see how that plays out.
Thank you very much.
We're about to head into the first sprint race of the day, and I think there's going to be lots of action. I've been chatting to all the teams, Piers, up and down the paddock, as I do, and I in particular spoke to Group GTH because there's quite a few guest participants in Group GTH, and that does obviously affect their races. So when I caught up with him, he wants me to do a bit of a rain dance because he's expecting some rain, but he wants quite a bit of rain, to be honest, because he's not very happy with his qualifying position. So I'm going to keep watching Ed Rydell today, and I am going to do a bit of a rain dance for you, Ed, don't worry. But I think it's important also to point out the Lotus. So we've got Formula Woman Lotus with us of Sarah and Alana, and they're doing well. They're just sort of here to get to grips with the car. They've never raced this car before, so I'm interested to see that one, Piers.
Yeah, very interesting to see. It's a Lotus that's new to the championship, I believe, and they're getting to grips with the car as well as the team, and they're also learning the circuits because obviously they're not native British racing drivers, are they? So they're coming and learning a whole loads of different things all at once, but they're chipping away at the times. They're faster in every session than they were in the previous one, getting over a few different bits and pieces with the car as well, but the team are doing a great job, and it's great to see sort of a full female team on the grid because you don't often see that in motorsport, and it's great. I know you're a female in motorsport, and hopefully we can see more women inspired by yourself and other people like that. It's great to see them going out there and giving it their all.
I know it is amazing to have some women on the grid with us, isn't it? But talk to me more about sort of driver mentality. When you're a new driver coming in, is there so much pressure? What's really going through your mind? What do you think they're thinking?
Well, it really much depends on the driver, the situation. A lot of people put a lot of pressure on themselves. Some drivers like to take things a bit more chilled, and it also depends on the situation. If you've got potential sponsors who are, they want results, then there's a bit more pressure there. If you've just got people that are supporting you and you're in a very stable financial position, then it might help you. But I haven't spoken to them specifically about it, but I'm sure they'll be absolutely loving the experience to come over here, racing a great championship, which is really competitive. A lot of close rivals as well to race against. yeah, and also get themselves shown on this very live stream. So yeah, it'll be good to see them out on circuit, see them right behind us, and I think it's a really cool initiative that Formula Women have done to at least enable these girls to get these opportunities.
Yeah, some great coverage for them. When I actually spoke to Alana, she said she's really enjoying the weekend so far, but it is more about testing, improving. She's never raced in a car like this beforehand.
Yeah.
And I was saying maybe we'll bump her up to a GT3 soon. Obviously, powerful cars, and she's down for it. So let's see how that plays out for them. Also, Mikey Broadhurst and Philip Carter. So I spoke to them. There's not many issues with them really. They just want to beat the Mercedes.
Yeah.
So they're sort of hoping that the Mercedes have quite a bad race because it might help them out. Really.
Well, of course it would. In a moment, it might be an opportunity if we can you might be able to get in and have a quick word with Ed Bridle. But for now, yeah, you were mentioning that Mikey Broadhurst and Phil Carter, they've had a few good rounds this season. They've been a bit up and down, but we're looking forward to a good race today. They are right behind us, coming out of the pits. Did you find out who was going to be starting that car today?
I think Philip Carter will be starting.
Of course, it is because sprint race this morning.
That race. The thing is, though, now we have lost the Aston Martin Vantage. To them, they think there's less competition really in Group GTH because that was their biggest competition. Tom Canning is a very, very fast man, as we know. We might see them back out at Snetterton, and maybe that will be a bit more competition for Mikey because that's who they really wanted to fight against, and Philip Carter as well.
Yeah.
But I think that's all that's going on in Group GTH. But GT3. GT3 is where it is at his, especially with the guest participants as well. And I think I actually feel quite bad for Orange Racing because they're being hit at by all angles. With Callum Davis, JNS Racing, with Sasha Kakad and Hugo Cook, Ian Campbell and Duncan Tappy. So literally all around them, they're fighting off everyone.
Yeah, they've jet goes overhead once again. We're right near East Midlands Airport, but we've seen this weekend Tom Roach has kind of been right in the thick of the action, and every single moment he's been on the circuit. Race number 1 yesterday, of course, he was fighting hard to try and take the win. Race number 2, same place, second, but that time he was defending strongly from Dan Harper in the BMW. And on the subject of the BMW, they've gone with a bit of a different setup philosophy today. We heard from Darren Leung yesterday. He said that we're trying something yesterday, trying something today. Apparently they've gone a little bit stiffer, according to them. I don't know if they've changed plans overnight, and seemed to work in this morning's practice. They were going very fast. I think set a faster lap time than they did yesterday. So maybe they might even be a bit stronger today than yesterday, which would be an ominous thought for the rest of the grid, I think.
I think so, because when I spoke to Dan Harper, he told me he's raced against Tom Roach before. There's a little bit of a rivalry going on there, but he actually did beat Tom Roach last time, and obviously he didn't beat him yesterday, so he's rearing to go out and probably beat Tom Roach Orange Racing as well today.
Yeah.
Over there I can see the Porsche of Richard Chamberlain. Amazing to have that back out because they had a water pump issue. So now that's all fixed. Richard went out himself. The lovely thing that I really like about Richard is that he loves the mechanical side and the engineering side of racing. So he goes out there, he's a great driver, but he loves the other aspects of it as well. And you know a lot about that, don't you, James?
Do you know what? Yeah, I've done engineering at university, maybe not quite as hands-on as those guys have, but I was about to say, do you know what I love about that car is it really is a bespoke machine. They work on it, they fabricate bits for it. It wasn't out yesterday for all of the day, which is a shame, but they've managed to fix it overnight. They've done a lot of work. I can see them working underneath the car, putting bits together, and they work hard. They love it. It's a proper, labour of love, and they've got it back out. They've got it back out on circuit. We saw it going around in practice and qualifying this morning. It sounds great. It looks unique. It looks pretty cool, and I'm sure they love driving it on circuit as well.
Well, it's great having it in Group GTO. We've got Chris Murphy's BMW, strong, no issues again, quite happy with the car. Paul Bailey and Ross Wiley dominating, they're doing great again, no issues really, so a lot of the teams are happy.
Yeah, you say no issues, there was that one small spin, wasn't it, remember, on the last lap at the last corner in Group GTO. It didn't actually hurt them too much for Paul Bailey, but that Lamborghini's clearly going well for them. They had the Brabham at BT62, which was awesome at the start of the year. A few issues with that. Switch to the Lamborghini hasn't hurt their overall championship challenge, has it?
Well, I was actually going to say though, because now you mentioned, the only little issue that they did have was in quali, there was a bit of a crash with Simon Orange and Paul Bailey, but it was fine. I think the cars are fine, and when I caught up with Simon as well, he said the car seems to be intact, so we'll just take it out again, see what happens. Hopefully it won't damage their race too much. Yeah,
exactly, and it's good to see that the teams are able to get it going again, and we're looking forward to a good race. We had such good racing yesterday. It was so close. I think race 1 yesterday, it was like 2 tenths between the top two in GT3, and No, it's 5 tenths in the top 2 in GT3, 2 tenths in the top 2 in Group GTH. If we can get races as close as that again today, which I think is likely because qualifying has been pretty close as it has been as well, you know, we're in for a great day of racing. Actually, a little brighter this morning than it was yesterday when the weather forecast earlier on was suggesting we might get some rain, but the wind's blowing through, definitely a bit more blustery than it was yesterday, which might affect the way the cars handle, but that might potentially also blow in some more weather this afternoon. We'll see what happens, and as you mentioned earlier on, Ed Bridle wanted a bit of a rain dance. I'm sure he's not the only one.
Rain dance. No, I'm not going to do the rain. I don't want the rain. I think sometimes it is nice for racing, but like you say, it can really damage a lot of the drivers' races. If you're great driving in the wet, that's amazing, like Ed Bridle, and if you're not, then you really don't want me to do a bit of a rain dance, do you?
Yeah, we're just hearing that the fast lane is about to open, so if we could start making our way briefly towards the bit where we can cut onto the track, as we see the cars all getting their warm tyres, getting fitted to the cars. They've come from the ovens at the back of they've come from the back of the garages. It's all about keeping the temperature in the tyres on the lap to the grid, because it's an opportunity for the drivers to feel the circuit, see if anything has changed since yesterday, but also they want to make sure that they get a lot of heat into the brakes, because that's one thing. Because those brakes, they are ambient temperature, and if you get the temperature in the brakes, that energy and heat radiates out into the wheel and then will keep the tyres warm on what is the lap to the grid and then the formation lap.
So would you say then, if you're more an experienced driver in terms of, you know, keeping the tyres intact and understanding a lot about the tyres, is that going to help you more than if you're a rookie? Is there an advantage there?
I think any experience that you have is going to be helpful, because if you've done it more and more times, you'll be well versed. But some of these young drivers who are, you know, young professionals, like for example Dan Harper, he's only been racing in GTs probably 3 or 4 years now. And that sounds like only 3 or 4 years, but you know, if you're doing it every single weekend as a pro driver, you just get so dialed in. You know what the car needs to feel like. You know the tyre prep. You know all the ins and outs. So it's about just how well you know the situation. A lot of the drivers out there who may have been racing for longer still might not be, you know, polishing those corners and then working on it with their pro drivers. So, you know, it's depends on your situation, I suppose.
Well, it's one of those things. More experience, obviously, is always better, and as long as you're learning from the experience, then you can't really go wrong. I'd actually like to watch Jay Shepherd in this race, to be honest, because he's been doing amazing in the Lotus Evora. They struggled a little bit. They had a bit of a mishap yesterday when they forgot to put the tyres on, so I spoke to them more to get some more information, and they had the wet tyres on. The car was facing the wrong way. They just got timings mixed up, and that happens, but they got back out and they got really good position. They did say when Ross Wiley jumps into the car of the Lamborghini, that's when they start to struggle a little bit. He's a pro driver, he knows what to do, it's an amazing car, so that's why Jay is now trying to match his pace. It's difficult, obviously, but I think there is something to watch between them two specifically.
Yeah, Jay Shepherd will be pushing on today, won't he? You've spoken to more than I have, and it's great that you've got all the inside information up and down the pit lane, Amber. So yeah, we're looking out for that battle especially. I think it might be worth grabbing over to talk to our series organiser, Chris Hayes, because Chris, we enjoyed the racing at home, but hello, Chris. Sorry to interrupt your chat there, but
sorry, I want to be Chris 2 radios. Chris 2 radios.
We were just discussing a moment ago how close the racing was yesterday. When both races was close in Group GTH, Group GT, AM3, and also all the classes. It's so good to have such close racing all throughout the field, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fantastic. It was fantastic. I mean, I guess the safety car helped.
Yeah, of course.
But it's certainly, you know, whether it's rain, safety car. You know, these things are not contrived, it's just motor racing. Things happen, you have to react and cope with and do the best you can. So no, it created a really exciting race to watch. I hope that the spectators and the people following it enjoyed it.
2 more races today. We've got one starting now, the sprint race, and then potentially maybe a changeable wager for later on. Are you doing a rain dance? You want it to stay dry, or maybe a bit of rain to sprinkle in a bit of action?
No, I think I'd be happy with it to stay dry. I think you know, if it as I say, if it rains, it rains. But you know, when it rains, it always adds to the potential consequences for us as a championship. So we prefer it to stay dry and everyone get it home and have a great day's racing. And you know, that's really what I would like to see.
Well, as the boss, now you've said it's not going to rain, it won't, because I know you have that control. So thanks for chatting to us, Chris. And,
direct line.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks very much.
Okay, no rain dancing then, Chris. I try not to. I love a bit of rain dance, but then I don't at the same time. Also, Piers, Group GTC. Charlotte Gilbert and Gilbert Yates are really dominating that group, aren't they? Stunning
Yeah.
Lamborghini, and we always say Charlotte wasn't used to that car, and I think it's really important to highlight that, how amazing she is doing now. There's less cars in Group GTC as well, but it's still so close, racing against Russ Lindsay as well in the Porsche, but they're two different cars really, aren't they? So can you talk to me a little about the differences in terms of Lamborghini and a Porsche? From my knowledge, I'm not a driver, from my knowledge, I've heard that the Porsche is quite hard to drive, so is that going to affect them two battling?
Yeah, I think the Porsche, I don't believe, has any driver aids. I don't think it has traction control or ABS, and I think the Lamborghini, the Top Cats Lamborghini that Charlotte Gilbert and Gilbert Yates are driving, does have a few electronic aids, which just means that it doesn't make it any easier to drive fast. It just means that your margin for error is slightly larger. And Charlotte Gilbert, especially yesterday, looking well on form. She's, as the season's gone on, really progressed as far as I'm concerned in terms of just the pace and the comfort she has in the car and how consistent she can be. It's a shame not to have any Ferraris out this round. We had a couple out at Silverstone with Tom Fleming and also then we had the Dezils, but maybe they'll be back. It'd be good to see them. It'd be great if we could walk down the grid and see if we can chat to any of the drivers and not get run over.
I know, I was going to say, Piers nearly getting run over there. Hopefully we can catch a word with some of the drivers coming in now.
Shall I see if I can grab a word with Ian Campbell in here? Is Ian happy to have a quick chat? Are you having a quick chat, Ian? Ian, front row start, good place to be. What's your hope for the race? Getting lead early?
Yeah, I think that's everyone's. That's what he's thinking as well, next to me, I suspect. So, yeah, just try and no contact, make it clean, drive, as hard as I possibly can in the early laps, and then settle in. But yeah, ideally, it'd be nice to get into first place after the first corner, and then just push on as hard as I can.
25 minutes, good luck for that. I think we need to clear the grid shortly, so it would be good to hear.
I'm over
Ian,
here with Sasha Kakad. Sasha, just a quick word. It's been a bit of a struggle, hasn't it, really? But not really fault of your own. How are you feeling for this race?
Yeah, to be fair, Amber, we've lost a bit of pace, and I have been struggling a bit for pace. But yeah, we had an unfortunate incident yesterday, yeah, just getting the head down, try and have a better race today.
Yeah, still in a good zone. Good luck for this race, Sasha. Okay, we are going to have to leave the grid, so I'm going to send you back over to Andy for the rest of this race.
Looking forward to seeing what races 3 and 4 of the weekend have in store for us. That second race in particular, the pit stop race, was an absolute thriller and provided us with a bit of a shock victory perhaps for Seamus Jennings and Greg Caton in their Porsche. However, their weekend taking a bit of a downturn now because they don't appear to be on the grid. There's a gap on the grid where they should be. They were due to start from fifth place, on the grid, the inside of row 3, and they don't appear to be there. So we're minus one of the Group GT3 cars at the front of the pack. There it is in the garage. So that car late on parade must be some sort of mechanical gremlin, maybe an electrical issue that's preventing them from getting the car fired up. So that's a shame. Hopefully they'll be able to get going from the pit lane and we'll be able to join in the race. So if you're new to GT Cup, this is our second sprint race of the weekend, another 25-minute sprint, no pit stops, and therefore no driver changes either. Darren Leung will be starting from pole position at the wheel of the Century Motorsport BMW, which was so competitive yesterday, but ultimately not able to come out of either of those first 2 races with a race victory. Can they put that right now in the third race of the weekend? They will start from pole position then. Darren Leung, as I said, taking the wheel for this race with Ian Campbell, who we just heard from briefly on the grid with Piers, starting second. Row number 2 then for Simon Orange and Sasha Kakad in the Audi. Then we will not have Seamus Jennings from 5th on the grid. That car stuck in the pit lane, so Charlotte Gilbert alone on that third row. Row 4 then for Paul Bailey in the 28 Lamborghini. Jay Shepherd in the Lotus Amora will start next. Then it's Patrick Collins in the 999 machine, with Richard Chamberlain, thankfully, having what seemed to be a trouble-free morning so far, starting from 10th. Then we have Chris Murphy in the number 72 car ahead of Callum Davis, the first of the Group GTH cars in the McLaren that was so dominant in yesterday's second race. Stephen Walton in the number 69 Mercedes is next, alongside John Curry in the number 96 example. Then it's Philip Carter and Tim Docker who will share the 8th row of the grid. Row 9 then, Ed Bridle taking the wheel, interestingly, in the 91 car. I think it was David Franklin who did the sprint race yesterday, whilst Melly Zhang will be alongside on the 9th row. Sarah Messier will be starting in the Invitational class Lotus at the back of the field. So we've got 19 of them out on the grid, and it is the Century Motorsport BMW Piers that's going to be starting from pole position. Now, that car had pace throughout the 2 races yesterday, particularly in the second race, it seemed. We believe they've gone a different way with setup today, though, and already in qualifying, that seems to be paying dividends.
Clearly got some good pace right at the front of the field this morning in the sprint race. Darren Leung will be looking to go better than he did yesterday, and it was a pretty good day yesterday regardless.
Yeah, 3rd place in race 1, 3rd place in race 2, but arguably should have been a race win really in that second race, but the timing of the safety car and the pit stop didn't work in their favour, and then Dan Harper came up against a very defensive Tom Roach in what was a sensational battle for second place, a battle that Tom did come out on top of, so he managed to fend the Century car off, which had to settle for a pair of 3rd place finishes. Right then, 2 by 2 towards the final hairpin. Darren Leung in the BMW, the white, yellow and black McLaren on the inside is Ian Campbell. It's a dry circuit, the temperature increasing slightly, that wind also increasing as well. How is that going to play into our 3rd race of the weekend in the GT Cup Championship? The red lights go out now, the blast towards Redgate Corner begins, and it's a good start made by Leung on the inside line. He should hold the advantage, I think, into Redgate Corner. Can Simon Orange break through into second place? I don't think he can. Look at Chamberlain around the outside, that Porsche, a rocket ship in a straight line, and it's immediately gaining places on the run into and through Redgate for the first time of asking. It's Leung who leads though, Campbell second, Orange third and Kakad in 4th. Grid order then at the front, Piers.
Yeah, it's a good start from pole position from Darren Leung. He controlled it well, had about a car length gap, and now already is Simon Orange on the back of Ian Campbell. And that's the Porsche that hasn't quite got started. It's got issues with that. That's such a shame after such a successful day yesterday afternoon.
It is indeed. So Seamus Jennings, we believe, was going to be doing the driving in this race. Unfortunately, not going anywhere for the time being. Up through Coppice Corner we go once again then. Down the exhibition straight for the first time. The Group GT3 cars, as you would expect, starting to break away at the front of the field. Then the Group GTC Lamborghini of Charlotte Gilbert sat in 5th position, with the Group GTO leading. Lotus right behind of Jay Shepherd, but don't remember that that GTO Porsche of Richard Chamberlain is right behind, so we could have a genuine fighting Group GTO today.
Yeah, it was a wide entry, a narrow entry which led to a wide exit from Darren Leung, which means that he is going to be slightly under pressure from Ian Campbell, who had a very good second half of the lap. He was he's definitely closed down in that final sector and gapped a little bit. It is Orange, isn't it, in the car? Yeah, Simon Orange in the car in 3rd place.
Yeah, the last time Ian Campbell was in the car was in qualifying when he went into the gravel trap up at Coppice, so brought about a red flag actually briefly in that qualifying session, so good to see that he's got his confidence straight back. There goes the Group GTH leading car briefly through shot. That's the number 13 of Callum Davis, and then right towards the back of the field we've got the brand new Lotus Emira of Sarah Messier bringing up the rear. Down through the old hairpin we go though. Looks to me like Darren Leung is starting to get away now.
That is a hell of a first sector from Darren Leung. 19.3 is, there we go, the Porsche finally made it on circuit. Good to see them out. They have gone a lap down, but it'll be good for them to get some laps under their belt in this race to help with their setup and just clarify that everything is okay for race 2 this afternoon.
Exactly right. Out of Coppice we go then, and an all-McLaren battle starting to develop for second position now. Ian Campbell in the 23, Simon Orange in the 67. They're dropping Sasha Kakad in the Audi in 4th position, but Simon Orange starting now to warm to the task, isn't he? Closing in on Campbell as they head towards the end of lap 2.
Gaps are sort of finding themselves at the front, so yeah, Leung is fast in the first sector, but actually fast in the middle was Orange in the McLaren 720, so that is why he's closed so much onto the back of Campbell, and you can see that gap there is basically nothing now, and we know that Simon Orange doesn't hold any punches, so if he's got a sniff of a gap, he'll be filling that with a McLaren 720S.
You can see that they've replaced a bit of the bodywork, haven't they, on the left front corner of the number 67 McLaren, possibly a legacy of contact with someone or something yesterday. Drifts a bit wide of the apex at Redgate Corner, does Simon, and that means that he's not going to be close enough, therefore, to challenge down into the old hairpin.
Yes, apparently that was a small amount of contact between, I think it was Orange and potentially Paul Bailey, I think, in qualifying.
Yes, of course, I have heard about that, yeah, you're absolutely right. So no major damage done. They've got the replacement bit of bodywork on. Might not match the colour scheme of the rest of the car, but it's still clearly operating well. Looks to really close in into McLean's corner. Not a particularly common overtaking opportunity in GT racing, but Simon Orange is applying the pressure wherever he can.
Yeah, that pressure is going to be pretty hefty. We've got 21 minutes remaining. Soaking up that amount of pressure for 21 minutes is not an easy task, especially when the car behind you is identical and the driver behind you is as fast as Simon is. And also, you know, we've seen many times this year, I mentioned that a moment ago, that Simon doesn't mind getting stuck into a fight, and he loves the fight, and so does Ian Campbell though, which is good to see. So I'm looking forward to a good race as this goes on, and they're going in very narrow and getting the car stopped and turned at the apex of the Melbourne hairpin, firing out, unleashing all of the power. And we mentioned it yesterday as well, it's such a good place to watch if you are at Donington Park, is go down by the Melbourne hairpin and see them go through there. It's about as close as you can get without being on circuit yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. You can really see the drivers scrabbling for traction coming out of the slowest corner on the circuit. Into Redgate corner we go now then. Simon Orange stuck behind Ian Campbell. These two identical McLaren 720S GT3 Evos, prepared by different teams. That's the only difference between them though. And it's generating some really good racing for second place. Now, further back, briefly there in Group GTH, we caught a glimpse of Sarah Masia in the Lotus Emira. Big celebration of all things Lotus here this weekend at Donington Park, and a lot of people I'm sure are interested to see how that car goes on as it continues through its development. This fight for second though, Piers, developing nicely as well. Simon Orange looking racier by the lap.
Yeah, they're not actually dropping off the back of Darren Leung that quickly either. Only, I mean, Campbell's last lap was a 28.0. Leung was faster, but only by about the gap of 2/10. So potentially, if Leung's tyres do go away a little bit, then they could have a three-way fight for the lead by the end of the race.
And likewise, if Orange can clear Campbell, he might have the pace to go after Leung, although Darren has put in 2 purple sectors so far on this lap. So it looks as though he's maybe about to increase the margin. Is there a chance into the Melbourne hairpin? Simon Orange thinks about it. He's just a touch too far back, but filling the mirrors of Ian Campbell and making Ian think that the challenge could come at any point.
Wow, I thought they were both missing the corner there. They brake so late, but such is the stopping power of these GT3 cars these days, with the massive slick tyres, huge brakes and anti-lock braking system. They both got it stopped, pivoted around the corner and fired straight out, and the gap I don't think has been larger than about 0.4 of a second for the last 3 or 4 laps.
No, it certainly hasn't. New fastest lap for Leung, predictably there, 1:27.234, compares to his fastest lap yesterday of a 27.59, so he's already going quicker by about 1/4 of a second. So those setup changes, Piers, seem to be working.
Clearly the combination of the newer setup and any tips and tricks that Dan Harper has been helping Darren Leung with has been helping, because going faster than yesterday, I don't think many other people are going that much faster than they did yesterday afternoon. So good work from the Century Motorsport team.
Yeah, Ian Campbell's best lap yesterday at 28.3.
And did a 0 just then.
Yeah, so they're going a little bit quicker, maybe the track a bit faster than it was at about this time yesterday. Back to Group GTH now, being led by Callum Davis in the number 13 car. John Curry, though, has got ahead of Chris Hart for second position, so the two Mercedes have swapped places here, and they've got the number 14 machine of Philip Carter right behind. So this is second, third and fourth in Group GTH, and they're running as closely together as we've become used to seeing them this weekend.
Yeah, those two Morpheus AMG GT4s have been close all season long, and once again very close. And we can see there's Richard Chamberlain in the orange Porsche going to the Fox Yeses,
and he's in the lead of Group GTO because he got past Jay Shepherd in the Lotus Evora on the previous lap, Piers.
So that is the leading group. Great to see them, all the hard work they've been putting in behind the scenes with yesterday's struggles, and to get it back out on circuit is paying off.
Absolutely. We've seen Richard in the past fighting for overall race victories against much more modern GT3 cars in GT Cup, so maybe once they get this race out of the way, they might have half a chance of doing that later on this afternoon. Down the Melbourne loop from the Group GTH brigade, though, and well, John Curry doing his best to get away from Chris Hart, who is in the Steve Walton, excuse me, who's in the number 69 car. Chris did the sprint race yesterday, handing over to Stephen Walton this time around, as we once again cut back to the Lotus Emira of Sarah Masia turning through the Fogs. Yes, it's a great looking car this, and as we discovered this morning, it's a great sounding car too.
Oh yeah, we were sat up in the grandstand on the exit of the last corner for qualifying and the final practice, and it does sound great, and I believe it might be the first time that this car has raced in this championship, and also it's a full female team as we've discussed previously, which doesn't happen often these days, but is becoming more and more frequent, which is great to see.
Yeah, absolutely so, and they're getting quicker as the weekend goes on as well, which is exactly what we like to see. And they are going at the moment, well, a little bit slower than they did yesterday, but then they are boxed in, aren't they, slightly behind the Nelly Zhang number 17 McLaren. find a way through, they might be able to improve their lap times. Right then, out of Goddard's comes the fight for second place. And again, Darren Leung, he's, what, 2-3 seconds or so up the road, but you do feel that if Simon Orange could clear Ian Campbell, he might be able to chase after the leader. Simon Orange just put in a purple first sector. Campbell retaliated with the purple middle sector, but they both, on that occasion, were fractionally quicker than the race leader.
Yeah, you say that, but, you know, Campbell set his fast lap of the race on that last lap, and it was, yeah, as you said, pretty much identical to the leader, and he's getting faster and faster. I'd say it's almost like the pace is coming to Ian Campbell, as we see the Porsche that won yesterday's race number 2 coming back through the field. So clearly, whatever was the issue with that car has been sorted for now.
Yeah, now this is not for position because it's a lap behind these Group GTH cars, but you would imagine over the next 15 minutes it might stand a chance of getting that extra lap back.
Is that the net that's been caught in the door? It looks like there's something flapping in the door there, so hopefully that's nothing untoward there. But the battle for second place in Group GTH between the two Morpheus Racing AMGs is hotting up.
Yes, it is. John Curry defending from Steve Walton. He looks from the outside to try and get the inside line, exiting Redgate Corner. The two Mercedes AMG GT4s absolutely evenly matched as they head down through the Craner curves. And as they head into the old hairpin, this does have the look of Stephen Walton starting to get quicker as the race goes on. John Curry maybe feeling the pressure a little bit now. They're about 9 seconds adrift of the first car within the group, though, that being the Callum Davis number 13.
Yeah, and it's not too far behind is Philip Carter and also Ed Bridle in the other AMG. They're pretty close, so second, third. There is the four-way battle for second place. I'd say it's probably a two-way battle, closely followed by two others, but it could quite quickly become a four-way battle if this concertina is up with some potential traffic.
Now, traffic here as well for the Group GT3 cars. That's the Sarah Mazir and Melly Zhang battle, and Melly got really out-foxed there by Simon Orange. Has that given Sarah Mazir a chance to get up alongside? Yes, it has. So Sarah does now break through. That's good news. She's into 17th place overall. That will be 7th within Group GTH, but crucially, she's got some clean air to work with now.
Yeah, we can see the out-and-out pace of that Lotus Emira in the white one behind, because that would be good for them to get some open air running, because it's always difficult when you're following a car in a different group. Sometimes the way that the pace ebbs and flows means that it's difficult to show your hand, I suppose.
Yeah, runs within Group GTH, but as an invitational runner, so doesn't score points. Interestingly, neither does the number 17 McLaren that it just overtook, actually, so neither of those cars fighting for points, but they are fighting for track position, as are these two. And again, Ian Campbell not scoring points, so Simon Orange at the moment on course for maximum points from this race, because Darren Leung's car is also an invitational runner, but that is the last thing on Simon Orange's mind. He doesn't strike me, Piers, as the kind of driver to points race or settle for anything. He wants second place on the road, doesn't he?
He is a racer out and out. He will be pushing on to try and get that position on the road, if at all possible, and if it is possible, he'll be there.
Through Redgate Corner he goes then, trying to build a challenge, but just seemed to maybe carry a bit too much speed in, lost some momentum on the exit of the turn. And so Ian Campbell stays in front. It's still Richard Chamberlain who leads in Group GTO, still Charlotte Gilbert who leads in Group GTC, and she is sort of the meat in the GTO sandwich, isn't she? Because she's got Jay Shepherd there, right behind, so the Lotus Evora, with maybe, Piers, a little bit of damage to the front of it, actually. That bodywork on the front of the Black Lotus, just following Charlotte Gilbert, looked a little askew to me.
Yeah, maybe there's been some contact off camera that we haven't quite seen, but Charlotte Gilbert doing a good job still. Circulating at a very, very quick speed. I mean, I've said it so many times before, I love the look of that Top Cats Racing Lamborghini. It's such a good-looking car, and then also the livery they've got on as well just suits it so well.
Really does. Good-looking car, a well-driven car, a well-prepared car as well, and that rather explains why it's been really the dominant force in Group GTC, certainly this weekend at Donington Park. Through McLean's 12 minutes to go, but maybe being caught by Jay Shepherd on the previous lap. Well, actually, no, Jay was 2/10 slower, so Charlotte Gilbert managing the situation, although really twitching around there as she came out of Coppice.
Yes, switching around, trying to scrabble for grip and using all of the road on the way into the Fogarty S's. Just casting my eye to the timing screen, and at the front of the field, it seems like Darren Leung's pace is somewhat sort of settled and plateaued. Sort of a mid to high 27, but that's now being matched and occasionally bettered by the two following behind the McLaren 720Ss of Campbell and Orange. And on the last lap, Campbell set his personal best on sector 1. Although saying that, Leung has just gone slightly faster again.
Yeah, Darren Leung has been working through a bit of traffic as well. That might be causing the lap times to ebb and flow slightly. Richard Chamberlain there, negotiating the Group GTH battle that we've been documenting a fair bit. Sarah Masia and Meli Zhang. Sarah has not yet really been able to settle into her rhythm and improve her lap times, but the Emira still running well. Did sound as if they'd run into some sort of a little issue in qualifying. The engine note turned sour at one point, but it seems to be working well, hopefully, in the race. Although that being said, seemed to lose a bit of pace then heading through the Craner curves.
Yeah, it didn't look as if it was completely on the limit as it normally is, but maybe that was just resettling in after a bit of lap traffic. Again, worth mentioning that both of the drivers in that 24/7 racing Emira are not used to racing in the UK, so they're still learning the circuit, learning the car. First opportunity in the championship. It's a lot to take on, and they're doing a great job to circulate so consistently, and the pace will come with time.
Through comes the Group GTC leader, Charlotte Gilbert, right behind Jay Shepherd in Group GTO Lotus. So Lotus Evora meets Lotus Emira. Two fairly similar looking cars, actually. You can definitely see the design traits that have been carried over through the generations at Lotus HQ. Now here comes Ian Campbell, getting up the inside there of one of the other Group GTH McLarens, and that almost just put him on the wrong foot for a moment. Simon Orange closing back in, but a bit like we saw really in yesterday's race when Tom Roach was right behind Hugo Cook for the race lead in the sprint race. Catching one thing, staying with another car is one thing, but finding a way past when the lap times are this even is not an easy thing to do.
No, exactly. This is the closest it's just a while, and the traffic again playing a big part in this race. Ian Campbell, though, doing excellently to negotiate it so effortlessly, and as much as the gap is very, very close behind, he's not actually given Simon Orange an opportunity really to have a look this race so far. And so far, we're at over 15 minutes into the race so far, 9 minutes remain.
Campbell's car twitching around on the brake into the Fogarty S's now. A big group of traffic ahead, because look, they're about to catch this second place battle in Group GTH. Darren Leung there diving up the inside of the first of the Morpheus Racing Mercedes. That's Steve Walton. He's still stuck behind his teammate John Curry, but when these two catch that group, could that give Simon Orange the opportunity he's been looking for to dive through and claim second position? They're about 3.5 seconds adrift of the race leader still. Darren Leung controlling the race quite nicely, but look, they're going to catch these two GT4 Mercedes, I think, somewhere on the exit of Redgate Corner. This could be interesting.
Ian Campbell will be hoping that he can catch them on the run down the Craner curve so he can stay flat out, because if he has to lift or move out of the way, it's going to leave him vulnerable. It looks like he's got past one. What about the second? It's going to have to be a lunge into the old hairpin, I think, as Simon Orange makes his way through on the first of them. Around the outside of the old hairpin, okay, but Simon Orange has got a great exit and is going to make his way through very swiftly past the second of the Morpheus Racing AMGs, and might have a run onto the back of Campbell. Not quite this time. So again, the gap extended ever so slightly, but well within a second still.
And a graphic illustration there of the difference between a GT3 and a GT4 car. The GT3s are a little bit quicker down the straights, yes, but it's that extra cornering grip that they've got that Campbell could go round the outside of John Curry as if John was standing still and didn't even run too wide on the exit. Simon Orange, though, despite having lost a bit of time, I think, in that exchange, has closed back in again as they head towards the final sector. And as he flicks through the left, through the right at the Fogarty S's, he maybe tries now to prise the door open into the Melbourne hairpin. Is he close enough for a lunge? No, well, maybe. Campbell leaves the door open and there's contact. No, look at that. Simon Orange came from a long way back. Campbell left the door open, turned into the corner. And, well, your thoughts on that, Piers?
I think that was a little late, and unfortunately that piece of bodywork that has been replaced since qualifying has now been damaged, so hopefully they can find another one somewhere, but I reckon he might still be able to finish the race, and the gap back to the next car is, was it Kakad, isn't it?
Yeah.
What was the gap? 16 seconds, so that remains to be seen whether Kakad can close that gap, but Ian Campbell will probably be rightly aggrieved with that move.
Yeah, did Campbell get going in front of the Audi is the next question. I don't think he did.
No, the issue is he was facing directly off the circuit, so he will have had to drive through the grass and potentially go, oh no, he hasn't been able to get that going quite yet, so he was falling well down the order. It was such a great fight up until that moment, but we saw it coming. It was a late pull out of the racing line for Simon Orange, an optimistic move. Potentially Campbell could have seen him coming and given a bit more room, but ultimately I think it was a slightly too late for Simon Orange.
It almost seemed, didn't it, that Simon sort of didn't expect the inside line to be left open. When it was left open, he maybe felt obliged to go for it because he hadn't been given that many opportunities to get up the inside of the 23 McLaren. but he was just that bit too far back, wasn't he, really? So carries on with damage, 6.25 minutes to go. Hopefully that damage won't bring him into the pit lane, but I suspect he might have some questions to answer after the race. Anyways, in the dirt now, going out of the chicane. Ian Campbell finally gets his car fired back up, and he's going to rejoin the track not far away from Simon Orange, actually. Oh, and the safety car is scrambled. The safety car is scrambled after Ian Campbell has got going again. So this is going to bunch everybody back together when we didn't necessarily need it, but it is going to give us a bit of a sprint to the finish.
Yeah, I'm sure that call was made because this McLaren that we're looking at of Campbell, the race lab McLaren, wasn't able to get started, and the safety car has picked up the leader. They would have made the call in this race steward saying that car is in a stranded position, it's unsafe, we'll call the safety car. But they weren't to know that finally Ian Campbell was able to get that car going again. So it was probably the right call at the time, because ultimately the stewards can only make the decision with the information they have at the time.
Yep, indeed. So it's
unless there's something else on circuit that we haven't seen, but I don't believe there is.
No, that is possible, but no, I don't think anyone else has slipped off the road, which is good news, because this should therefore just be a single lap behind the safety car, which, as you can see, has picked up the BMW of Darren Leung, and crucially, there is a car between them. That is the Woodrow Motorsport BMW of Chris Murphy, which runs within Group GTO, so that will benefit Leung on the restart.
Yeah, but I don't think that Simon Orange will be pushing hard to take the race win. We saw that there's front left damage, at least aerodynamically, potentially something to the tracking at the front as well, and we saw him run wide through the exit of the Fogarty S's on the first lap through there with his damage. So I think that car's a little bit hobbled, although he's probably going to be more under pressure from Sasha Kakad, although there is a lot of GT8 traffic between himself, Simon Orange and Kakad. There we go. Kakad in the back of shot in the red Audi. You then have the Greystone McLaren GTH, then Ed Bridle, the two Morpheus AMGs, and then it is Simon Orange. So yeah, I think there's unlikely to be any major changes of position on the first lap after the safety car. Who knows after then? But tell you what, the Group GTH, it has brought things together, hasn't it?
Well, it has and it hasn't. It's brought the second place battle back together, but as happened in the second race yesterday, Callum Davis is so far up the road that he hadn't been lapped yet, so he gets a full lap now, near enough, on the rest of the Group GTH field. So really dominant performance so far this weekend from Callum Davis. Any time the number 13 car is being driven by Callum, it has been simply untouchable. Callum Davis, who's been racing in Ginettas of late and really making big strides in that world of racing, and is looking rapid in the McLaren as well. Right then, as we predicted, one lap only behind the safety car. Darren Leung now has the job of restarting the race. He's got that Chris Murphy BMW between himself and Simon Orange. Let's see what the final couple of laps of racing bring. Yeah, he has gone early there, nicely done. And that makes sense, Piers, when you've got a lapped car, a slower car.
No, he's having to slow down because he's recaught the safety car. That is a little clumsy, because that's going to mean everyone's checking up. Hopefully that doesn't cause any further issues. We can see there's some cars in the background making their way around, but it managed eventually a safe restart for Darren Leung. Went a little early. Simon Orange making his way past the Woodrow Motorsport of Chris Murphy, and then the Group GTH second place battle continues.
Yeah, so good idea there from Leung, trying to use that lapped car to hold back Simon Orange for as long as possible, but didn't quite time it right. He's still come out of it with a big lead, though. They dropped down the hill. They were 1.8 seconds apart at the timing line at the safety car restart, and that gap only growing now. I think there goes the Group GTH battle. Sasha Kakad right in the middle of that in the Audi, with Richard Chamberlain running a very impressive fourth place overall now in that troublesome Porsche that leads in Group GTO. That's the number 17. That is Melly Zhang.
Oh, Melly's had an incident or a spin at the last corner. Goddard's potentially on, I don't know if there's anyone around her, because she hadn't quite caught the back of the group. So, we're looking up the inside. Kakad having a look up the inside into Coppice. That is a bit tight through there. He should be able to make his way past through on the straight, however. Yeah,
that was Steve Walton, wasn't it, that he was trying to slip up the inside of. Walton now dropping away from John Curry slightly in the Morpheus Racing battle for second place within Group GTH. There goes Kakad out of the Fogarty S's. They're going to have time for 2 more laps, I think, aren't they, at the end of this one? And actually, Kakad perhaps keeping one eye in the mirrors to watch for Richard Chamberlain, and Charlotte Gilbert has contact with the GTH cars. Carnage down at the Melbourne hairpin, and that was a really unfortunate moment, that for Charlotte Gilbert, the Group GTC leader. She was up the inside of one Group GTH car, another came steaming up the inside. That was a bit clumsy, Piers.
Yeah, I don't really know how that started. It looked like Charlotte Gilbert was on the inside of the Greystone.
Yeah, I think
Carter. 570, and then unfortunately the innocent party in that was Ed Bridle in the in the other AMG, the light blue AMG, and he will be bitterly disappointed. He was driving such a clean race, and I know that David Franklin, his teammate, was just looking for a nice clean weekend, and unfortunately through no fault of Ed's. I mean, I think he actually deliberately missed the apex. He saw it coming and still couldn't stay out of the way, so really disappointing for that whole group there. Just a bit of miscommunication as always. You know, it's with different groups all converging at one very slow corner on the brakes, it can often happen.
Yeah, we see it quite a lot down in the Melbourne hairpin, but that is a shame. Late stages of the race. We believe we're on the final lap of the race now. There goes Richard Chamberlain, on course perhaps for a Group GTO victory now, and a very impressive 4th place overall. Jay Shepherd has not been able to challenge him on the safety car restart, whilst behind them, Paul Bailey comes next, followed by the 999 cars. That's Patrick Collins, who inherits the Group GTC lead, but only just ahead of Charlotte Gilbert at the start of that lap. So Gilbert's car is undamaged. She may yet be able to challenge again.
Yes, that car has got a bit of a pace advantage. There's still some stranded machinery. That is the Ed Bridle AMG, and I didn't catch the other car that was stranded there either. That was probably the 570. Must have been the GT4.
Yes, that didn't come through. You're absolutely right. So it is the number 14 car.
Disappointing for them as well, because again, I don't really know what's going on there, because it looked like the GT4 was defending from the GTC car, maybe just to try and maintain track position because they knew there was a fight. A bit of a strange one, that. I'm not sure what went on there. We'd have to look at that again to boil it all down, but I'm sure the stewards will have a look at that. But meanwhile, oh yeah, big damage to the rear right of Ed Bridle's AMG GT4 there. That's a real shame.
Yeah, Philip Carter would have been defending from Bridle, I suppose. So he was on the inside defending from Bridle, who was on the outside, and then in the middle was Gilbert. Just nowhere really for any of them to go. Now look at that damage on the front of Simon Orange's car. He'll be very grateful to see the checkered flag at the end of this lap. The headlights popped out completely, the bodywork dragging on the floor, rubbing against that left front tyre, all of which means that he's not been able to challenge Darren Leung for the victory. And Century Motorsport are now, it seems, going to get the win that they feel they probably should have had yesterday, and they're going to make it 3 different winners in Group GT3 from the 3 races so far this weekend. They go past that damaged number 14 car. You can see there Philip Carter trudging away in disgust, but none of this matters to Darren Leung and Century Motorsport. He brings the BMW into the final corner from pole position to a race victory here in the 3rd race of the weekend at Donington Park. Victory for Century Motorsport, and a beautifully managed race there from Darren Leung right from the very start. 2nd place on the road at least will go to Simon Orange. I'm sure there'll be a conversation about that contact between himself and Ian Campbell after the race. Hopefully no major penalties or aggro carried over. Now this is the Group GTC battle, and this is Paul Bailey, I think, just about fending off the wounded Lamborghini of Gilbert. Into the final turn she goes, and she's not quite going to be able to get there. So Group GTO goes to Richard Chamberlain. Group GTH, is it going to go to Bailey? Gilbert almost getting alongside of the flag, but Bailey will just about, sorry, not Bailey, it's Collins, isn't it, who gets the Group GTC victory. Bailey was actually no, so I'll get that right in a second. Gilbert got back ahead of Collins on the final lap to finish 7th overall, so we didn't see that happen, but she got past the Porsche and managed to get into the class lead again at the end. Worthy victory, really, given the fact that she'd led the whole race until that contact. It wasn't really her fault. And finally, in Group GTH, is Callum Davis, who manages to get the race win there. So another lively race there, Piers. The Group GT3 battle was intense, but nice to see a bit more battling further down the order as well.
Yeah, battling all the way through the order. A couple of little issues that we saw, but still a dominating victory for Darren Leung. Led from pole position. No matter what went on behind, he just held his lead. Clearly that car working well. Set fastest lap as well on one of the first laps of the race at 27.2. Simon Orange in 2nd on the road, but again, potential conversations and potential post-race penalties to be had. We'll confirm that later on once we have race number 2. We'll give you the full results, but the results for now will be provisional, I would imagine.
I suspect you're probably right. Yes, lots to talk about after that one, up and down the classes, but Piers will head down into pit lane then to chat maybe to a couple of the drivers involved in what was another entertaining race. Darren Leung and Century Motorsport, though, I'm very pleased with that, and they're excited to be here as part of the GT Cup event at Donington Park, and they will leave here with a race win, at least one race win. Can they become double victors, I wonder, in the pit stop race later on? 2nd place goes the way of Simon Orange, 3rd Sasha Kakat, with Richard Chamberlain in the Porsche 935. Finally, they've managed to get to the bottom of their issues, and that car managing to come home 4th and winning in Group GTO. Then it was Jay Shepherd, 2nd in that class. 3rd was Paul Bailey, so valuable championship points scored for the Lamborghini man. And then Charlotte Gilbert, who led, then lost the lead, and then got it back again on the final lap within Group GTC. She came home in 7th place ahead just of Patrick Collins. Callum Davis in 9th place wins in Group GTH ahead of Chris Murphy, who rounded out the top 10 overall. Then it was John Curry and Stephen Walton, so the two Morpheus Racing Mercedes AMGs finishing 2nd and 3rd respectively in Group GTH ahead of Tim Docker and Sarah Masia, who managed to pick up a few places towards the end of the race. Then it was the unfortunate Seamus Jennings, who had to start from the pit lane, yesterday's race 2 winner, ahead of Melly Zhang, who had that spin on the restart. Ed Bridle we saw retire with damage after the contact with, amongst others, the Philip Carter McLaren, which also didn't finish, whilst Ian Campbell was also a retirement after his collision with Simon Orange. So another dramatic race in GT Cup, their 4th and final race of the weekend coming up a bit later on. That will incorporate the pit stops once more. But for now, let's head down to the pit lane and get all the reaction from an exciting sprint.
Definitely a dramatic sprint race. I was in the Orange Racing garage, and yeah, the reactions from them, not super happy now Simon Orange's car has been damaged. But first off, I should say congratulations to Darren Leung, because that was such a strong drive from him.
Great drive from Darren Leung. I mean, he did everything he could. He led from the start, pulled away, managed the safety car well, and that was it. Race done. And they won a race. They had a strong showing yesterday, but they're finally getting the win they thought they deserved. And that car is looking pretty ominous, isn't it? It was looking very in control, and clearly the changes they made overnight have been worth it.
Yeah, clearly the setup changes and everything that they've done to the car now really suits the drivers. Very interested to see how it's going to play out for the next race, because they're right at the front now, so hopefully if nothing goes wrong, if they don't get caught up in a lot of traffic, then it should be potentially on for a win for them. I am very sad for Orange Racing though, because they had a little bit of a collision in quali, like I mentioned, and now that collision that unfortunately took out Ian Campbell as well, so very disappointing for him, and I'm sure they're not very happy right now.
Yeah, it's unfortunately again a miscommunication, but there was many other fights throughout the field that were so close, and there was just a couple of issues throughout the race. But you know, it was good to see the Porsche, the winner in race 2 yesterday, get back out on circuit. Even though it was a lap down, because they had a couple of issues at the start of the race. But hopefully that's everything now sorted, of course, for race number 2 this afternoon, and they might be able to do the business again. Who knows?
I know. Well, I actually caught up with them beforehand, and I was like, "What are you thinking then for the next 2 races?" And they really just want to improve. They want Seamus to improve his times, improve his lap times, just get quicker and quicker. So hopefully, they said to me they might aim for 3rd or 4th, and I was like, go for the win. Go for the win. So we'll see what happens. Unfortunately, there was a collision with Charlotte Gilbert and a few others, and Richard Chamberlain nearly got caught up in that, but he was okay.
Richard Chamberlain nearly, yeah, but the orange Porsche drove a really good race. We haven't seen that car completely, you know, basically doing the whole race for a while, and it looked like it was basically back to its best, didn't it? It's great to see that car on circuit. Such a different looking car. It's so refreshing to see such a unique car, and it's also, you know, it's an old base, but it's constantly been updated and evolved. You can see it in the distance over there, and I'm sure it was a pleasure to drive on circuit. But do you reckon it'd be worth seeing if we can grab a quick word with Darren Leung?
I will have a look, and also here's Ed Bridle's car coming in, so unfortunate for him.
Yeah, so it would be good to grab a word with Darren Leung. Of course, we've seen the Ed Bridle car there that had an issue in the race, unfortunately not being able to make it back to the pits, and we have got Darren Leung, because it would be great to grab a word. Their first win, I believe. I'm sure that the work they put in overnight, we'll be able to hear if that was the reason for it, or whether Darren's just found something. Maybe Dan Harper's helped him with his driving. Darren, brilliant race. I thought that was it's textbook, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know, you tell me. Yeah, I just get my head down and drive, really. Yeah, car felt really good, so had everything I needed to do to sort of get a move on. Probably drove a little bit too tidy at the beginning, and then eventually just got used to it, and tried to open up a bit more and found a bit more.
You mentioned yesterday that you actually were planning to do different, slightly split strategy on the setup yesterday versus today.
Yeah, that's right.
It seems like the car's got a bit of extra pace, or is that just in you itself gaining a bit more as well, or a bit of both?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, the guys haven't really given us a setup that doesn't work. It's just achieving the lap time differently.
Yeah.
So it kind of helps that I've got a clean air in front of me, right?
Oh, of course, yes.
Whereas yesterday I was sort of in the middle of it all and got hit. So kind of that accounts for a lot, I think. But yeah, I mean, this was quite nice to drive. So was the one yesterday. So we've got a lot of thinking to do.
Yeah, and must be looking forward to the race later on. Of course, you had a strong showing. Unfortunately, just with the timing and the pit starts missed out. But with the pace you showed in race 1, surely the win is on the cards.
Yeah, I think if we can keep the car out of trouble, then yeah, I think we've got a good chance.
Brilliant. Thanks for chatting to us. Congratulations. Celebrate with the team.
Congrats. We'll catch up with you later.
Yes.
Amazing, stunning drive from Darren, as I said, but so unfortunate for Ed Bridle. They couldn't even get the car started again to get it all the way back into the pits and into their garage.
Yeah.
So no rain. He wanted a bit of rain, didn't he? But actually his race got damaged quite a bit, didn't it? Amazing in Group GTH as well. Some lovely battles all throughout Group GTH. So overall, I think it's been a very interesting, dramatic, chaotic sprint race, and that's what we want to see.
Well, it was a little bit chaotic. Hopefully later on it'll be slightly less chaotic. Slightly longer race, so 50 minutes later on, 25 minutes this morning, but you do have the added variable of those pit stops. And yeah, will we see the same people come out on top as we did yesterday? Only time will tell.
I mean, I'm hoping that it's not less chaotic, Piers. We want more drama. It's amazing. There's so much action on track. So if you do want to watch the next race, we should be back around 4 p.m. So we will see you then.